This episode is brought to you by Love Hurts. Kiwi Kwan has had quite a career, from childhood roles in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies to a recent Academy Award win for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But now Ki finally stars as a leading man in the film Love Hurts. Love Hurts is the perfect date night movie with its mix of over-the-top action, comedy, and a ton of heart. Love Hurts, only at theaters February 7th.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This opening half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors Guarantee. Terrific service department, whether it's inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all. Quick lane, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. And it is a privilege to be joined by the best in the business, and that is Merrill Reese, the voice of the Philadelphia Eagles. Merrill, another great run, and thanks so much for your valuable time today.
Steve, I am always happy to be on with you. It's fun to talk football with you.
Same here, and we have a common denominator because you've had one season of calling every play of Saquon Barkley. I had 3 of them in college. There are certain guys, when Bryce Harper comes to the plate, I feel like he might hit a home run on any pitch. What's it like for you knowing that anytime Barkley touches it, it could be the home run and he takes it all the way?
You know, he is truly amazing. I have never gotten over him. I thought they were getting a great football player, but I did not realize how great that would extend to. I mean, he's just been absolutely amazing. And what better indication was there than last week against the Commanders? On his very first touch, he took it 60 yards to the house. He is amazing.
And it's not just what he's doing with the ball. Sometimes what he does without the ball. The way he picks up a blitz, Merrill, I mean, to give Jalen a little more time, the way he blocks for Jalen when he runs with the football, what does that mean to the offense?
It means a lot. He's a very unselfish football player, but he's great in every segment of the game, blocking, catching passes, and, of course, running with the football from scrimmage. I never thought he was as fast as he was. When they got him, when they made that deal, I was excited, but I kind of thought that he wouldn't be quite as fast as he was 5 years ago coming out of Penn State, particularly when he had had some serious injuries in those years
Yes.
with the New York Giants. I thought he'd still be a very good football player, but would he have that speed? And we found out very quickly that he absolutely has that speed.
What did it mean to the offense, Merrill, when Dallas Goedert got back at tight end?
That's a big plus, a very big plus. I found out, just checking things, in statistics the other day. Do you realize that in the playoff history of the Eagles, going back to 1981, I guess technically, or 80, and then the Super Bowl was in 81, in the postseason, no Eagle receiver has ever gained more yards or had more postseason touchdowns than Dallas Goedert.
Wow. I never knew that.
I didn't either.
It's amazing to me. Now, the Eagles have so much talent on offense, but it's almost like when he got back there, it inched up a little bit. I just thought the way he blocks, the way he receives, everything.
Absolutely. But that being said, if I had my druthers, if I could have anybody in the draft, it would be Ty Warren.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, I will say this. Goddard can't throw.
Well, the other thing about Goddard, and this is not a criticism of Goddard himself, but it's just a fact, just a pure fact, that Goddard has sustained a lot of injuries, and he has missed a lot of games. And Buddy Ryan once told me durability is as important as ability. And maybe it's because he plays with such reckless abandon and throws caution to the wind. He is a great player. Dallas Goedert is also a great guy, but he has suffered a lot of injuries. He's missed a bunch of games with a concussion, with a knee injury. There's always something going on. But I keep my fingers crossed because he will enter the Super Bowl relatively healthy.
All right, so Howie made a lot of moves, Howie Roseman, in the offseason. We've already talked about Barkley. What do you think he saw in Zach Bond that made him a good football player in New Orleans, but a great fit in Philadelphia?
Well, I think Howie himself would admit that he didn't expect what he got. You know, Steve, we hear football coaches all the time saying it's their job to put players in the right places to make plays. Well, they brought him over here thinking he could do some edge rushing and be a great special teamer. But it was Vic Fangio who took him and put him inside and said, I believe he is an inside linebacker. Well, he's not only an inside linebacker, but he's a first-team All-Pro inside linebacker.
The defensive backs, they draft Mitchell, great pick. Cooper DeJean got hurt at the end of his senior season, and Howie still drafted him. What have those two young players meant to solidifying the secondary?
Oh, they meant everything. They meant everything because neither of them came in and at any point looked like rookies. I mean, they were confident. They were fundamentally sound. They were coachable. I've never seen two players come in as rookies and immediately fit in. I mean, they didn't go through growing pains. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell may have had his first interception in the playoffs against Green Bay, but Quinyon Mitchell has been around the ball all the time. There was a stretch of games up until maybe the last 3 games of the season. He hadn't given up a single touchdown pass. Quinyon's quite amazing. And, of course, Cooper DeJean not only is an outstanding slot corner, and I think he could eventually be, if Darius Slay were to move on, I think he would be the other starting corner. But I think that Cooper DeJean also stepped up when Britton Covey got hurt and has done an excellent job returning punts.
Yeah, no question. Great punt returner. Saw that when he was at Iowa. Nolan Smith on the edge. He may be undersized, but what is he giving that defense because of the quickness he has? You know,
last year there were a lot of people late in the season evaluating this team and saying that they don't know why the Eagles, after picking Jalen Carter first, at the end of the round picked Nolan Smith as a first-round draft pick, and they were starting to use that little old buzzword, that B word that we hear, bust. And Vic, and again, credit to Vic Fangio, who liked him the minute he came to camp or the minute he saw him in the OTAs. And Vic Fangio said he's a good football player. He just needs a chance to play and gain experience at this level. And Vic believed in him, and we see that every game, almost every game, he seems to come up with a key sack.
You mentioned Vic Fangio. He's another guy that's added into this mix for them. What does it tell us about him that after a period of time where he needed to adapt based on his personnel, he did, and it worked?
Steve, he's a great coach. He's a great coach. I've been around a lot of great defensive coordinators in my career. I mean, Buddy Ryan, we talk about him as a head coach, but he was really a great defensive coordinator. And going way back, one of the best I've ever been around was the late Bud Carson. He was great. And then, of course, Jim Johnson in the Andy years was right at the top of his profession. Can I tell you that Vic Fangio belongs in that class? He is that good. When the Eagles face the Chiefs next Sunday, people talk about the Chiefs' defense and their great coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. And I know Steve, and I know him very, very well, and he's a great guy, and he's a tremendous coach. But Vic Fangio certainly will hold his own with Steve Spagnuolo. You have two of the best.
By the way, Jack Ham, the number of times he'd bring up Jim Johnson to me, I couldn't even. If I had $1 for each time he did it, you and I would be like playing golf right now. So,
well, I'd be doing that anyhow if there weren't snow on the course.
That's true. No, so would I. As a matter of fact, Merrill. This game itself, like you've been down this road before. Yeah, you've been down the Kansas City road before. Both teams are a little bit different than before. What do you think of Kansas City based on what you see now? Not what everybody will talk about the reputation they have, but what do you see in that team right now?
Well, they're very, very good. They've got a lot of talent. However, I'm going to be honest with you. I think if you compare the rosters from top to bottom,
I agree with
the
this.
Eagles are better. The Eagles have a more complete roster. However, there's that little X factor who wears number 15. Mm-hmm. And you never know what he's going to do next. And he is one of the most unbelievable crunch time quarterbacks ever. Although, go back to Super Bowl 57 2 years ago, Jalen Hurts actually outplayed him that day.
I agree. He did, except for one play. Jalen, I thought, was the best player in the field.
One little fumble.
Yeah, but Jalen was the best player in the field outside of that one play. He was
great, and he was great against the Commanders 2 weeks ago.
I thought that's the best. Personally, I thought it was the best game he played this season. When you look, and he has stayed away from the big mistake along the way. Now, there's a trade-off with that. How do you evaluate Jalen Hurts at this point?
Well, I don't use the word a lot, but I think he's a great quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I have never wavered on my belief of Jalen Hurts. I just think he's a tremendous quarterback. He's an unbelievable person. He's not a guy with a big personality, and he doesn't showboat very much, but he studies endlessly. He's dedicated, and he's very, very coachable. He does what they want him to do. So if the game plan that particular week means run Saquon Barkley and throw maybe 20 passes at most a game, he goes along with it. Or if you get into a game where you've got to flex the arm and go deep, he can do that too. I think he's a tremendous quarterback. Now, can he do some of the things that Patrick Mahomes can do that we see every now and then and go, wow? No, I don't think he's got quite that many athletic gifts, but he's got a great arm. People underestimate his arm. He's got a great arm. Doug Peterson, when he came in and he first saw him, he said, you know what? He can put the ball any place he has to on the field. He can throw hard. He can throw with touch. And also, he's very, very athletic, very, very fast. It's just that Mahomes has a certain instinct which enables him to get away from five guys who are surrounding him, and all of a sudden you see him halfway down the field.
Well, for goodness sakes, Tom Brady faced Eli Manning twice in Super Bowls. Manning was the winning quarterback each time. Is there any team in the NFL that's picking Eli Manning over Tom Brady? No. All right. You just have to be you, the best you out there. Jalen Hurts is the best Jalen Hurts.
He is, and he's a leader. Believe me, he is really a leader in his own quiet way.
No question about that. Well, not just quiet way. You can tell it that people naturally gravitate toward him because he's a we person. He's a we person, not a me person, right?
He is absolutely a we person. And the other thing about Jalen Hurts is if you watch his demeanor on the field, he's unflappable. He keeps his poise. Good, bad, whatever happened next, he goes on to the next play. He never loses his cool.
Finally, for you, Merrill, it's about Nick Sirianni. You've watched every snap over the years. Where's the area of growth that you have seen in him as a head coach that you appreciate?
Well, number one, he's a great motivator. That's a big thing. The players really like him. They really respect him. But the areas of growth that I've noticed, and I think everybody else has noticed too, midway through this season, he stopped taking on the crowd, and he stopped yelling as much as he had been at the officials. He has settled down. He's always going to be emotional because you can't take that out of him, and that's good because Dick Vermeil was pretty emotional too, and he's my favorite coach of all time. But Nick is still emotional, but he's played it down a little bit. And I think he'll gamble and he'll be aggressive, but I think he's toned it down a little bit. Now, there was a play in the Washington game in the third quarter when the Eagles were just across into Commander's territory, and it was 4th down and 5, and they lined up to go for it, and I said, I'll be honest with you, I would not go for it right here. The risk doesn't equal the reward, and if they don't connect on this pass right here or on this play right here, Washington's, and they were still very much in it at the time, they're going to get the ball near midfield. So I figure, all right, he's going to go for it. He's going to go with some kind of a short out or flip the ball across the line of scrimmage to Barkley and let him run another 3 yards. Instead, back goes Hurts, looking downfield, and throws it 30 yards downfield on the sideline to A.J. Brown, who all he had to do was stick out the palms of his hands, and the ball found the target. It was just an unbelievable play. So Nick will still do that from time to time, but go back to early in the season when they played Atlanta on the very first drive. They were inside the 10-yard line, and they went for it on 4th and 6 and came away without points. I don't think he would do something like that early in the game. I think he would take the 3 points and move on. So, but look, what do I know? Do you know, Steve, I have to tell you, going back to Super Bowl 52, it's right before half, the Eagles had a 4th and goal from the 1 with 2 seconds left. And I said to Mike Quick, I said, listen, they have to take the 2 points here, and 3 points here. They've got to take the 3 points because they are going to be kicking off to begin the second half. So the Patriots are going to have the ball. If they take a chance right here and fail, all the momentum goes the other way. So what do? They pull off the most famous play in Eagles history, the Philly with the pass going to Nick Foles. And Mike said to me, that's why you're up here and Doug is down there. And I walked into the locker room, and Doug and I hugged, and I said to Doug, I said, that was the worst call I've ever seen with the best result.
You know what? I'm like you. I realized a while ago that is why I'm up there.
You know, I still learned my football from Dick Vermeil, who told me when you're inside the 20 early in the game, you can't come away without points. But that's not the style of football today. There are a lot of riverboat gamblers out there, but I think Nick has toned it down a little bit, and he's done some things that he might not have done earlier. He's not taking a lot of the same kind of risks.
The Super Bowl was made for you. I am looking forward to hearing you on Sunday because it's going to be a great game and you're going to give a performance beyond words. Thank you so much, my friend. You are the best in the business.
Now, Steve, let me tell you something. I can't tell you how much I loved listening to you during the season and what a wonderful, wonderful job you did. I have to tell you, I just died a little bit at the end of the Notre Dame game, but it was a great season for the Nittany Lions.
Merrill, thanks. That means more than you know. Thanks so much. And yes, I died a little bit at the end of that too. So.
Absolutely, but then there's next year.
Yep, there's next year. Well, let's get this year and let's get Sunday. Best of luck all the way across to you, Mike, and everybody there. Thanks so much, Merrill.
Thank you so much, Steve. Take care and stay well.
The great Hall of Famer, one of the best ever to be in that spot, without question, Merrill Reese. This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. So we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to be with you, brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury, go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, motorcycle, RV, those are just some of the insurance needs. And look, all of us we have multiple insurance needs. You need to go to pros, such as Purdy Insurance, that have the ability to make sure you're fully insured, whatever the need happens to be, and also because customer service means everything to them, because you as a customer mean everything to them, they do everything they can to save you money. It is all at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Great to have the legend Merrill Reese on the show today, who in our industry of play-by-play is revered for multiple reasons. One is you're talking about the ability of somebody to be as great as he's been, to be revered as he's been, and to be as down-to-earth as he is. I can't say enough great things about him. So, and now we're going to take the show to a different level. Now for a preview of the IndyCar season. No?
Yeah, I'm not ready yet. I mean, we're still about a month away.
Might as well be a year away for some of
I
us.
was going to say, for you, that's just still not far enough away, is it? Hey, I found an app that you have to have.
Really?
Now I know you don't watch a ton of hockey, but you do watch some hockey.
Oh no, that's wrong. No.
Are you watching more hockey now?
Oh no, I've always watched a lot of hockey.
I
love hockey.
All the years you and I have known each other, I did not know that you were that big into hockey.
Oh, I love hockey.
I just started.
No. That's why I took my I took a couple of my kids or in-laws and I took how many? 1, 2, 3. I took 4 of my grandchildren to the Penguins game 2 weeks ago because they'd never been to a hockey game before. You know, a pro hockey game. They've been to Penn State hockey. Yeah. But no, I know
you've done hockey sideline, ice side before.
Oh, I've done hockey play-by-play. I mean, I've done a lot of hockey play-by-play. I love the sport. I love the speed of it. I go all the way back to when Bobby Orr played. That's where I became a big hockey fan. Bobby Orr.
There's something to be said, though. I mean, up until last year, I never really watched a lot of hockey, and everybody said, you got to see it in person, you got to see it in person.
Yep.
So I went up to Wilkes-Barre, and I went to Hershey as well the next day, as a matter of fact. And I was watching, I'm like, this is an entirely different game when you're watching it in person than on the TV.
No question.
And I've really gotten into it, I have to admit. As a matter of fact, just pulled the trigger on 12-game season ticket package for the baby Pens.
Good.
Because it's only an hour away, so it's not that
Good.
far.
That's great.
I got a buddy who does a lot of the stuff at Hershey, so he keeps me up to date on everything going on there. But here's the thing, though. There's this new app called Hockey Horns Live. Now, it only works with the NHL, so I programmed it for the Penguins game. Mm-hmm. So every time the Penguins score, I hear... I don't know if you can hear that. It's not real loud. Here we go.
That was the biggest disappointment. that is the biggest disappointment that my grandson Colin had at the game. Now, when they came out, they played the horn. He said, I can't wait for them to play the horn after they score. He said, I can't wait for that. And the Penguins got shut out 5-0. It's like
no horn or anything, right?
So I said, Colin, I'll take you to another game next year. Don't worry about it. I said, I'll take you there.
That
was kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. I mean, that's half the fun of it is the loud horn. I mean, really. So that goes off every time the Pens score. Now, it doesn't go off when the other team scores, but I do get a little notice. So the Penguins have been on the West Coast the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I watched the Utah game the other night.
I went to bed before the game started. I don't know. It was probably about 11:30, and I have my phone next to the bed, and I hear...
Great.
My wife wakes up and she goes, "Great, the Penguins scored. I'm going back to sleep now."
Golly. Unreal.
Oh, this is the best app ever, though. Just don't, when your team's on the West Coast, just put it on mute. That's my suggestion to you.
It's okay. Okay. I kind of keep my apps to a minimum.
You have 5.
I don't look at that many. No.
That I do know. That I do know. Yep, 11:30. There goes the horde. Penguins scored. I'm going back to sleep now.
I sort of have this thought process, and the thought process is quite simple. Is there anything on there I can learn? If the answer is no, I don't want to look at the app.
In my case, I've got 400 apps. Then there's always something for me.
No, what I like to do is I like to talk to people and learn something. Now, I'll give you an example. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen Sunday. I get the impression it's probably going to happen Sunday. But I'm going to be watching the Super Bowl in California because I've got to go to do the game at UCLA on Saturday and the game at USC a week from tomorrow. So we're there all weekend. So Dick Girardi, and people have heard me say this, they know what's going on, that listen to the show. They know that Dick has arranged for us to go to Santa Anita. Now, Dick has been planning this since September when we found out when we knew that USC and UCLA were going to be the road, when they just said home or away, not dates. He says, I hope it's later in the year. I want to go to Santa Anita. This is back in, I think, April or May they released what the home and aways were. I said, well, we'll find out where it is. Well, then in September we had the schedule where now we found out the combination was going to be, of all time, Super Bowl weekend. Dick says, this is great. He says, that track's open 11 to 3 on Super Bowl Sunday. Like, he already knew, right? And when I mean 11 to 3, that's Pacific time, all right? So that would be the equivalent of being open 2 to 6 here on the East Coast. And he said, I'm gonna make some phone calls. Well, and he says, you're in, right? I said, I'm absolutely in. I said, you know darn well I'll go with you. We'll have a great time. And so he gets a box. A friend of his gets him a box. Now, I don't know what Santa Anita looks like. Obviously I've been out to the Rose Bowl. Santa Anita's on the other side of the San Gabriels, okay? So I don't know how it's. When he says a box, I mean, I can only guess as to what.
Oh, come on, it's L.A. You know that's got to be a luxury box.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've got to find out. I mean, I've never been there, so I don't know what it looks like. Okay, I've been to Churchill Downs and so forth, but not Santa Anita. So I mean, it could be a box, it could be open air. I don't know what it is. Okay? He says, but we'll be able to watch the races and then the game there. I said, oh, okay. So far, so good. I'm liking this. And I said, hey, is it pot? He said, do you think Baffert might stop by? Bob Baffert. He goes, yeah. I said, really? Now, there's a person that I want to talk to and listen to because he's been the best in his business now for such a long time. So how does a guy like that think? How does he operate? You know, what's important to him? Things like that. You know, and I do that with anybody. I give you an example. Chris Wu, the lead violinist for the Pittsburgh Symphony. Chris Wu is a genius. He is. There is a great video that Chris sent me of the Masters dinner with Jim Nantz and I think it was Trevor Immelman at the time, right? Where he played the theme to Augusta on the violin. Oh! Well, Chris Wu is one of those guys who's like, well, Steve, how do you do this? What do you do this? Right? And I'm like going, what are you asking me? I said, how do you operate? How do you like, those are the people like you enjoy being around that like you just sit there and in conversation, you get how somebody like that, what's important to them? How do they think? You know, so that part will be, you know, should that come to pass, that would be fun. Plus, we'll watch the game, right? Although I did say to Dick said, too bad the game's not in Los Angeles. He says, we can, you know, he said, maybe we could figure out a way to go. I said, no, I could have got us in. He says, what? I said, I know a guy. Tony Knopp.
I got a guy.
No, if I called Tony and said, hey, I'd like to go, you don't think I'm not getting in the game?
No question.
I mean, in fact, Tony and I think, are having lunch on Tuesday after the game. Because he's gonna come back Monday, and you know Tuesday's the Penn State USC game, and and where we're staying is closer to Calabasas anyway, where he lives. So
Santa Anita was my track like 15 years ago. I mean that was the one I would spend some time watching at the old OTW site.
Oh yeah, well, look the number. You know, you don't have to be a Triple Crown winner, you know. Win the Preakness, the Belmont, or the Kentucky Derby, or win a Breeders' Cup. I mean, if you're coming out of that racetrack to compete other places, you must be pretty darn good.
Well, that's one of the reasons I watch that a lot, because that would help you in the next year or two to, as you said, and then the Triple Crown runs.
Right, and I know there have been some issues at that track which have seemed to have dissipated. Because they had, 4 or 5 years ago, how many deaths of horses there? It's crazy. But, I mean, that'll be interesting. Watching the game will be fun because I think it'll be a great game. In the did you watch any of that Pro Bowl thing yesterday?
Yeah, you know, you would think I would have. I thought about watching the tug of war, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm really not overly interested. And I sat there and I'm like, at least it's a football game, even though it's flag. I don't know. I honestly didn't watch. I didn't watch any of it. I tuned it in for about 5-10 seconds for dodgeball, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done with this. I'm not interested.
Do you know who has ruined all-star games? The athletes.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the Pro Bowl used to be fun. I mean, they'd mic up different guys, and they'd play a football game. And, you know, I know there wasn't a whole lot at stake, and nobody wanted to get hurt and everything. But, you know, you got a chance to hear the play calls and different things like that. But, yeah, I don't know. This is just weird. Even for me, this is weird.
Well, it's not. I mean, baseball, at least, like, it may be an inning out there, but the pitcher's got to pitch, a hitter's got to hit. mean, the NBA has taken a basketball game and made it a complete joke. Nobody wants to watch that anymore. They're playing the game, but it's not. It's a complete joke.
Yeah, the first one that plays defense loses automatically.
Right. The big story over the weekend was the Luka Doncic trade from Dallas to the Lakers. I really didn't care when I saw it. I was like, okay, that's fine. It's interesting to me that the NBA has the best basketball players in the world. No getting around it. There are 8 billion people in the world. Only 510 of them are in NBA rosters. And I'm including the two-way players that have the 16th and 17th spots. Okay? It's just 510 players in the world out of 8 billion. They're the best. And they make some plays and some shots that are incredible. The officiating is way better than college. Way better than college. I mean, I've seen so many ridiculous calls this year in college basketball. You sit back and go, what are you watching? What are you doing? Right? Meanwhile, the NBA, like, to their credit, they've got a lot of safeguards built in on officiating. You know, each coach gets a challenge. You know, there was a play in a Penn State game I was doing where it's absolutely obvious on the face of the earth. It is an intentional foul at midcourt to prevent a slam dunk, essentially. And they went over and they said, we're going to look at the video. They called it a common foul. I'm like going, what the heck is wrong with you? In the NBA, they wouldn't even have thought twice about it. They would have called it a clear path foul. Easy call, clear path. They have a rule for it. College basketball doesn't have that rule, right? But this is what college basketball has, the passion of it. And in a lot of ways now, the parity. Ranking teams gets to be almost ridiculous in some ways. And because in ranking teams, because of the transfer portal and NIL, everything is spread out much more than ever before. I mean, the other night, and ESPN went through their usual blah, blah, blah exercise. It's John Calipari returning to Kentucky. Look, no offense to ESPN. I watched the game. For 2 hours, I did not need to hear he was back. I got it. The logic is this. Somewhere in the 5 to 7 minute period before the game, the head coach of the opposing team is going to walk out. Somewhere in that 5 to 7 minute range. During that time, that'll be dramatic. They will boo him. He'll smirk. Right? But it's worth watching. Okay. After that, there's a 2-hour game after that. It doesn't matter. The players will determine who's going to win. And ironically, there's the 3 Kentucky transfers that were the 3 leading scorers for Arkansas. The $1 million, and I'm not joking, transfer from Tennessee spent most of the time on the bench. Anybody over here in the back? Return on investment? All right. But Arkansas won the game. But the game was fun. It was passionate. The crowd was really into it. It was well played. A lot of things about it were just really entertaining. And you don't get that kind of passion in the NBA. You just don't. Luka gets traded. Fine. It's another business decision. He gets traded for Anthony Davis. That's fine. Who cares? I actually listened to a little bit of ESPN radio yesterday. And in listening to ESPN radio yesterday, I listened for 2 minutes. And in the 2 minutes, do you know what those guys did? Those 2 guys debated whether the Celtics a year ago should have traded Jason Tatum. Like, what kind of lunacy is this? Number one, they didn't trade him. They won the championship. Who cares? I mean, stop talking about things that people don't care about. And that's what ESPN radio, if I were running the place, they'd have had a phone call afterwards saying, don't return next week. What are you talking about? They should they have, at the same spot a year ago, should they have traded him? It's not working with Jaylen Brown. Well, they didn't trade him. They won the championship. So who gives a damn what you think? God, stop filling time. Give people some information to work with. God. After 2 minutes, I was like, these guys are awful. They should not be on the radio. They're just polluting the airwaves, just taking up time. That's me.
Yeah, Dave and I talk about this all the time, and Dave Ritchie's next to you probably knows more about basketball than most people I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put the two of you together in the room, and it's a nice conversation. But we have the same thought. It's like NBA fundamental basketball is gone. There's no fundamental. It's feed one guy, feed the star, feed the star, feed the star, and watch him take 5 steps before he goes out and lays it up. And then we see the same thing at the high school level, and of course the whistle goes because you can't do that. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think the biggest issue is in the NBA. It's just there's no fundamentals there anymore.
It's not good for the younger players out there. I'm talking about the college players because they see this happen.
Yeah,
and some of them develop that habit. We see more on your level of high school basketball. How many more 3-point shots are you seeing now compared to 10 years ago?
Oh, an infinite number of them.
Right. So now let's get to, Steph Curry is a special talent. His shot, his form, his legs, right? His influence on the game is incredible because now you have more people taking threes than ever before. I mean, my goodness, the Celtics take so many threes in a game. It's unbelievable how many threes the Celtics take in a game. But there are times when I'm watching and I see, even on the NBA level, so many threes taken. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me. Right? And I understand the point value of the shot. But that's been because, let's face it, most people really can't acrobatically dunk. Like, most people can't dunk, but I'm talking about players who play the game. They can dunk, but they can't do it acrobatically. They can't do it in a show with any showmanship, but they can dunk. Right? A three, wow. And you have almost everybody thinking they can shoot a three. I mean, there are guys where I'll see take a three, and I'll be doing a college game thinking, okay, why? I don't get it. Like, play your game. And that's why I said you have to see more than you ever have before. And that's that's the influence in the game. Caitlin Clark's having the same influence on the girls' game. Girls' high school basketball. I bet there are more threes being taken today because of her. There's probably a lot more threes being taken because of Steph Curry, but then seeing her do it probably has increased the number of threes on the high school girls basketball.
Absolutely.
All right. Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, the News Radio 1070 WKOK.